Hello there everyone and welcome back to the Performance Centre here at Howley Hall Golf Club in Leeds. My name is Ryan Rastall, PJ professional here at the club and equipment expert for Golfshake.com. As you've seen by the title of this video, we are looking at how far you should hit your 7-iron. Now, we are going to base that on a few things. I'm going to use the same club, so the one I've got here, as you can see, is the Wilson Staff model blade, which, amazing golf club, 34 degrees of loft on this golf club. And I've put Dynamic Gold 120 X100 in there, which is pretty similar to a shaft that I would generally use. So I'm going to swing this golf club at varying different speeds from 65 to 75 to 85 and then 95 miles an hour to show you exactly what this club should do under those conditions. Now, there's obviously some variables in there. I'm not a robot. I'm not going to swing it the same every single time. There's going to be some variance. Obviously, the way I deliver it, generally, I'm going to hit down on it and take a bit more of a divot. Some of you may not do that. So we'll chat about that as we hit some shots as we go through as well. I'll maybe even try and hit a few a bit shallower or a bit steeper and see what effect that has on some of these numbers too. But I'm just going to hit a few shots with each of these different swing speeds and show you exactly what the TrackMan numbers say and kind of what that could do to your golf game when you're playing, and also the kind of influence that might have on the type of golf clubs that you look at buying. Those of you who are buying clubs fairly regularly or changing your irons regularly will know that irons tend to be getting stronger in loft all the time. Now, some of that is down to manufacturers wanting those clubs to go further, absolutely, and there's no hiding that. But some of it is also down to the fact that the way that club heads are designed, the way the weight is getting lower in the head and almost helping that ball in the air, manufacturers are strengthening loft to try and get that ball to keep going forwards. Now, that might be okay for some of you. It might be absolutely horrible for some of you as well, and we'll talk about that as we hit some shots. But for now, let's go hit some on the TrackMan and then get chatting about what each of these swing speeds will do to your 7-iron performance. So we're going to start off at 65 miles an hour. Now, that is obviously quite a lot slower than those of you that watch our videos regularly, quite a bit slower than I would normally swing it. I'm around the 95 miles an hour is kind of my normal 7-iron swing speed. So I kind of know the numbers that I get from a 7-iron from there. So I'm going to obviously have to shorten my swing, slow it down quite a bit to try and get that kind of speed. But also I'll tell you a bit about what that's doing to the performance as we hit the shots as well. So I reckon sort of a bit of a half swing with this should be about right. So let's have a look at that. Yeah, so that's bang on 66 miles an hour. I've just hit that. So what you'll notice straight away when we look at ball flight is it's significantly lower, right? Because there's not enough energy going into it to get that ball in the air. And this, reminder, is 34 degrees of loft, this 7-iron. Many of the ones you're using at the moment will be significantly stronger. There's 7-irons now in the mid to high 20s in terms of loft. So they are gonna go significantly lower as well than this. And that's not great for trying to get your golf ball to stop on a green. So we can see that as a good strike. Ball speed just over 100 miles an hour there, which I'd guess is probably going to be about where we're going to be here. But it's only got 64 feet in the air. So that is probably, I don't know, 50 feet lower than I'd normally hit a 7-iron. And because of that, it's not going to carry as far as maybe it could do. And then it's going to run further than I want. So you're probably going to get somewhere in the region of 15 to 20 yards of run on a 7-iron. Which I would suggest is probably not ideal. We're going to hit a couple more and see exactly how this performs after a few more shots. But yeah, and this is obviously a consideration when you're getting fitted or using a set of irons. And this is why we would look at different lofts. We'd maybe look at clubs with more weight down the bottom of the head there to try and get them in the air. And also different shafts, so maybe something lighter, something that kicks a bit more, that's going to help you get more kind of dynamic loft as we deliver this golf club and get that ball in the air a little bit more. Obviously, it's great having a static loft of 34 degrees, but what does that mean when we're delivering the golf club? We can see I'm generally going to hit down on it, which is obviously going to decrease that dynamic loft a little bit and make this club play even lower loft than it is. So if you've got a 7-iron that's in those sort of mid to high 20s, you're hitting down on it a lot, you could be hitting it with a loft of what a traditional 3 or 4 iron is, down at 20 or 21 degrees, something like that, which is just, you know, unthinkable in terms of trying to stop the ball on a green. So let's try and hit a few more as well. Again, very similar strike, very flat flight that we've got on that. Again, same sort of ball speed, around that 100 miles an hour. Distance wise, yeah, it's kind of what I would expect. We'll get on to the kind of distances at the end, but certainly from just those few shots we've swung at 65 miles an hour, we're seeing lower flight, we're seeing a bit more run on the ball. So there's different things we can do to try and help you as a golfer to get better performance out of your 7-iron. Like I say, some of those things that we've just spoken about. The other thing is generally many of you will be hitting out to in terms of a swing path, which I am doing at the moment as well. I've been trying to work on that a little bit, actually trying to hit a little fade. But that is going to help me to get more spin and more launch. If you're a drawer of the golf ball, someone who brings that club in quite shallow, and the face is sort of shutting quite violently through the strike, that's going to lower loft even more, and you're really going to struggle to get the ball in the air properly. So there's lots of different things that we look at when fitting a set of irons to try and help you to walk away with a set that's going to help you play good golf. And that's not the set of irons that goes the furthest. It's the one that generally will stop the fastest and be the most dependable in terms of you're going to hit your 7-iron, whether it's 100 yards or 110 yards, but it's going to carry about that and only run 5-6 yards after that. The worst thing you can have is an iron that lands, say, 110 yards and runs to 130. 20 yards is way too much run on a 7-iron. We're never going to be able to hold a green. You think about trying to land it over a bunker at the front of a green and stop it before it goes off the back. You're just not going to be able to do it. So that's why you're seeing so many players now replace those even 7, 8, 6 irons with hybrids or 9 woods, etc. Really high lofted golf clubs that get that thing in the air quickly. And you're even seeing this on tour with a few players as well who are switching into those types of golf clubs to help them get that launch and the stop on the green that they want. Right, let's try hitting it a little bit harder. So now we're going to hit some at 75 miles an hour, right? So a little bit longer swing. Again, not much should change in terms of technique. I'm still going to be hitting down a little bit, still probably hitting a little fade generally, because that's kind of what I do, but just need a little bit longer backswing. Yeah, again, getting that ball a little bit higher now. Now we've added a bit more speed in there. You know, that one's got up to about 75 feet in the air, which is pretty good. Let's try a few more. See what speed that was. Yeah, it was a couple of miles an hour quick, 78 that one, but still, nice strike, got the ball in the air. Ball speed now is starting to increase, and as you'd expect, so is the height. But we are now starting to be able to land it and stop it a little bit quicker. Spin there just short of 6,000 RPM, which is a bit on the low side, but on a shot like that, it's landed 156 and gone 165. So we're kind of within 10 of each other there, which is okay, I would say. I think we're probably going to get closer than that when we start getting a little bit longer in terms of the swing and increase the speed a bit more. But yeah, at 75 there, we can start to see the ball flight change a bit. So there comes a question then when we're fitting a set of golf clubs for you, that we would look at something, even there, you know, the average there at around 70 to 80 feet, which is okay, to be honest. And probably many of you, and certainly most of the players that I coach and fit, when you ask them about how high they think they hit the ball, some say, oh, I hit it really high, or much higher than all the people that I play with. And you actually look at them and get them on the TrackMan, you get outside and have a look. It's actually quite a low ball flight. And most people that I play in pro-ams with, amateurs who, the first thing they say is, wow, you hit the ball so high. But I hit it pretty average when it comes to, you know, when you're looking at kind of PGA Tour stats, really, in terms of the height and the distance, I'm pretty much middle of the road, really. So it's kind of how high I should be hitting it. But there they're used to seeing golfers of obviously slower swing speed and not being able to launch that ball in the air, or ones that have been very poorly fitted and got the completely wrong golf clubs for them as well. So yeah, there are certain things, obviously, when we look at fitting, in terms of helping people getting the ball in the air a bit more, but I'd say about where I've got it here, it should be quite good for this kind of swing speed. Right, so we're going to up it even more now. We're going to hit it that little bit harder, get up hopefully to about 85 miles an hour. Yeah, bang on there actually, 85. Pretty good, but we can see now that's got to 90 feet in the air straight away. Wasn't a particularly fantastic strike, if I'm honest, but we can start to see the ball speed still going up a little bit more. Like I say, we'll go on to these figures when we get to the end properly and have a look at how each of them compare, but I'm just kind of giving you feedback as to what I'm seeing on the TrackMan as I'm hitting some of these shots. And we can start to see that with speed generally comes more elevation, depending on obviously how we deliver this golf club. And many of you, and certainly the most common shot that we see, is still that slice. So it's still that out to in path, generally de-lofting the golf club a bit through the strike. So it's generally quite a low launch, loads of spin and kind of rising, which, you know, can be detrimental to ball flight. But that's one of the reasons why you see in manufacturers strengthening golf clubs as well, because if you chop across it quite a lot and create loads and loads of spin, the ball tends to sort of balloon and kind of peak and just drop out the air. So that lower loft is actually getting it to go forward. But for many of you, like we've just seen, that can mean that when it lands, it's just going to run a long way, and we definitely don't want that with your irons. So it's very important to get fitted properly for the golf clubs that you are using, as we say that in every single video that we do. Again, 86 miles an hour, so pretty close. And again, now we've got over 100 feet for the first time, 109 feet that one. That's landed 165 and gone 169 total. So now we are starting to see that ball stop considerably quicker. Obviously, the fact that I'm fading it will give me a bit more spin and a bit more stop as well, and a bit more control. And that's what really we're talking about with these golf clubs. We want as much control as possible. We want an iron that's going to land the same distance every time and stop fairly quickly when it does that as well. You know, when we get to the other, higher in the bag towards your fairway woods and drivers, then we're looking at a club that's doing a completely different job, particularly driver. We want something that is going to land and run as far as possible, because we're trying to hit that as far as we can. We want the most distance possible. But these sort of your scoring clubs, 7-iron down in your set, we want them to land and stop fairly quickly. Obviously, the golf ball can have a bit of an effect on that as well. The one that I'm using here is a TaylorMade TP5X, which is the ball that I've been using for a while now. Really get on well with it. Seem to be able to control my numbers quite nicely with it too. Now, if we were to use a slightly different compression golf ball in those slower swing speeds, we may actually find that we gain a bit more spin, maybe get a bit more height and a bit more distance. So that is obviously another variable that you've got to consider. It's not only the golf club you're using, but the golf ball as well can have a massive impact on how your 7-iron performs. Right, let's crank the speed up. I'm going to go normal sort of 7-iron speed for me, hopefully around that sort of 95 miles an hour mark, and see what that does. Bang on, 95.2 that one. So yeah, so that is a normal 7-iron swing for me. That has carried 175, gone 179, which is what I would expect. Around that 175 mark is what I would club myself carry distance for a 7-iron, and 180 total is my kind of, 183 or 4 is probably my top end. And again, that's peaked 117 feet. Spin now well in the 6,000s, so it's getting up there, it's staying up there, and it's stopping quickly when it hits the ground. So yeah, I mean, I'll hit a couple more with this, but we'll go back and have a look at all those numbers now that we've collected them with all of our different swing speeds, and let's take a bit of a look at the performance. So now that we've gathered all of our data, let's have a bit of a look and see what each of these swing speeds has done to our 7-iron numbers. Right, so we'll start 65 miles an hour, okay? If we look down the bottom there, you can see on average, you know, so 65.3 was the average that I swung this at. We can see ball speed around 88 miles an hour, carry at just over 100, nearly 112 yards and 126 total. And we can see the spin down at 5,600. No shock there that the height, 44 feet, is pretty low as well, but it's the lowest spin. So you can see there when it's landing to when it's finishing, you know, we've got about 15 yards there, haven't we? Which is probably too much when we're talking about 7 irons and getting them to stop. You know, and this is from a technique where, you know, a path where I'm hitting across it from out to in, okay? So we would expect that to actually be slightly higher spin. If we were shallower, those numbers, and I've seen it in fittings, people struggling to get 7 irons above 4,000 RPM, which is just ridiculously low, and you're never going to stop it on the ground. So when we move up to 75 miles an hour, well, 76.7 actually, so a little bit higher than that, we're starting to see then the ball speed jumps over that 100 miles an hour mark. We get a carry of 140 and 149 total. So we're within that 10 yards really, which is kind of manageable, I would say. When we're looking at the performance, we can see the height now at just under 70 feet and the spin over 6,000 for the first time. So yeah, I mean, we're seeing kind of more, I'd imagine more kind of familiar numbers for most of you out there as well, because this is kind of your, you know, your general club golfer's kind of speed, really. You kind of middle of the road at 75 miles an hour is pretty much what most people are that I'm coaching. When we look at 85, so this is a faster swinger really as an amateur, you would see, you know, we're starting to see now that ball speed 113 miles an hour, which is obviously much quicker. That translates to 156 carry, 164 total, and we're starting to see that carry and total number kind of pinch together a little bit more there, which is good. Spin now, it's just over 6.6 and 84 feet as an average. So no surprise, we're starting to see the ball go higher, stop faster, peak a little bit higher, and spin a little bit more as we're adding speed. Now, like I say, this is, I'm generally going to hit the middle of the face more often than not, okay? There's obviously going to be some variance for amateur golfers who are going to miss the middle of the face a hell of a lot, and you're going to get some pretty funny numbers. But these are just kind of, like I say, almost like a laboratory test, if you like, of whilst I'm not a robot, I'm going to hit it pretty similar most of the time. So it gives us a good look at all these figures. Now, you know, like I say, I've got to reiterate the fact that we're using a bladed 7 iron that's 34 degrees. So I really tried to do that so that we're not getting particularly any technology involved in changing these numbers, to be honest. So, and we're kind of, these are about as pure as you're going to get, to be fair. Then when we move up to 95, which, well, just short of 94.8, which is kind of what I would swing it at normally, we're starting to see then, look, like I said before, 175 is kind of my carry. We're seeing that just 176 and 181 total, 126 ball speed. We're seeing 114 average peak height and 6.7, so just slightly higher spin than we were getting at 85 miles an hour. So we're now starting to see shots that will stop pretty quickly when they hit the green. And again, just a kind of nice fade sort of shape that I'm tending to hit with most of my irons at the moment, which is kind of what I'm trying to do. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with all those. But that hopefully gives you a little bit of a look at what different swing speeds are going to do to your 7 iron performance. Now, generally every golf swing is different, okay? And that's why we love to see and get people in for fittings and have a bit of a look, because we can kind of get a feel for the types of shots you're going to hit in a round, the types of shots you struggle with. We'd maybe even get out on the golf course as well when we're doing lessons and see kind of how you approach different situations, or whether you're even capable of hitting a shot that lands nice and high over a bunker and stop it. Because looking at some of the swing speeds that many of you have, particularly when we look at senior golfers and lady golfers that are, you know, 65 miles an hour and below, you can see how difficult the game can become if you've got to try and play it in the air, which is why we're fitting lots of higher lofted fairway woods, hybrids, and kind of replacing some of those irons from even 8 iron, 7 iron, 6 iron in the bag now being replaced by hybrids just purely because we can get those in the air quicker and stop them faster. It's not all a distance game, golf, and we obviously watch week in, week out at the top level on both the PGA and the LPGA tours of the best players in the world playing this game, and they are playing it sky high, stopping it quickly. Now, club golf is not that game, right? So we want something that is going to stop as fast as we can get it for you at the speed that you're swinging it. And then there are products out there, whether it be an iron that's got slightly more kind of mass in the bottom to help you get it in the air, or maybe it's a shaft that's maybe a little bit lighter to give you a bit more speed, because as we can see, speed is a key component to you getting that ball in the air slightly better and stopping it faster. But you could go on all day about these numbers, and if you've got any questions, please drop them in the comment section. I love answering them and love kind of getting into kind of debate and almost conversation about kind of how 7-irons perform, because every single person that comes for a fitting tells me they hit their 7-iron 150 to 160 yards and then comes in and swings it at 65 miles an hour. Well, as you can see from this test, that's probably not going to be happening, and certainly if they are hitting it that distance, it ain't landing anywhere near there. It's landing about 120 and running the other 30 or 40 yards, which is not what we want from a 7-iron, and certainly when we're fitting a set of irons, definitely not what we would be letting the customer leave with at the end of that. So yeah, please fire away some questions. Like I say, I've tried to make this test as pure as possible with an iron that's not got tons of technology, and me just trying to find the middle of the face as much as possible to give you numbers that hopefully will relate in some way to the way you hit it. Now, I appreciate I hit down on it quite a bit, which many of you won't do. So some of that is going to affect things like the spin and the launch conditions. I get that. You may swing it at 65 and launch it at 50 feet, maybe, because you're not as down in terms of the attack angle as I am. And that is going to happen. But overall, you're probably not going to get a hell of a lot more yardage out of it than what we're seeing here. But obviously, depending on where you play in the world, if you're at altitude or in bright sunshine all the time, these numbers are based on kind of normal conditions here in the UK, which tend to be pretty rubbish, which is why we're inside at the moment and not out on the practice ground doing this test. But hopefully you've enjoyed that. I've loved testing it. Please drop some comments in, ask away, and we love getting back to you as much as possible. And keep watching all of our content here on the Golfshake YouTube channel to help you play more and play better. See you soon.